I'm Leandro Perez, Vice President of Marketing for Salesforce Asia Pacific, and welcome to the Salesforce Executive Series, where you will hear from Salesforce global executives on their perspectives and experience working with thought leaders and the C-suite across the globe on how to navigate our times and more. Let's have some fun.
I'm already on record.
Where'd you get this idea, Leandro? JSD said it.
Minnie Craig says, good to see you as well.
Can I shut off the recording?
Yes, let's do that.
Really what the pandemic has done has accelerated the transformation of customers' behaviors, of their expectations, their aspirations, and in some cases, a reevaluation of their values.
It's my pleasure to welcome Jon Suarez-Davis, or JSD to those who know him well. JSD is Senior Vice President of Marketing Strategy and Innovation at Salesforce. JSD was previously the Chief Strategy Officer of the Marketing Cloud and led Salesforce's acquisition of the CMO Club. He is a leader with a career spanning 30 years in marketing. Prior to Salesforce, JSD was Chief Marketing and Strategy Officer at Crux, which was acquired by Salesforce, and has held senior roles at Kellogg's and Publicis Group. Hi JSD, it's so great to see you. Where are you joining us from today?
Yeah, it's great to see you, Leandro. I am joining you from Indianapolis, Indiana, right in the smack middle of the U.S.
Look, it's been a few years, but I do remember visiting you there and being in the amazing tower. Have you managed to get back in since this pandemic, or are you still working from home?
Still working from home and other remote places. Haven't been in the tower in 18 months, but the great news is that we have just recently had vaccinated volunteer cohorts back in, so I'm keeping the fingers crossed. It won't be too long.
Well, fingers crossed. That is indeed. Look, we're all aspiring to. We're not in our building either. Now, remind me when I went there last time. I was surprised when I was in the foyer. There was a Formula One or Indy 500 car. Tell us about that. What is that again, and is it still there?
It's a great question, Leandro. And by the way, right, even in that sentence, you had Formula One and Indy. I'm a big race car fan, and I know some people will take issue with mixing those two terms. So it is an Indy car, and we've had the great pleasure of sponsoring a car at the Indy 500. And we've just got an incredible driver, J.R. Hildebrand. And what's incredible about him is he's a fantastic person. But what's really intriguing is he uses technology, he uses AI deeply in how they strategize their race plan and their whole monitoring of the car, et cetera. Really, really incredible. Some would say very F1-like.
Also, I'll make sure not to get that mixed up again. I do know some people take that very seriously, including at Salesforce as well. So what a trailblazer. That's an incredible story. Now, JSD, digital transformation has been a topic of interest for many years in our industry, but recently we have been hearing about accelerated digital transformation. Based on the conversations you're having with CMOs, and I know you have many of those conversations, what are the drivers behind it?
Well, Leandro, you're right, of course, right? We've talked about digital transformation for many years, and I think there's no doubt there's examples, across categories and across regions where companies that have sometimes taken years, if not quarters, have literally stood up incredible transformation in months, weeks, and in some cases days. Things like curbside delivery, curbside pickup. Touchless payment, welcoming guests back into hotel rooms or on planes, right? In safe ways, new safety protocols. But I think, Leandro, we would be remiss if we didn't kind of acknowledge and deeply understand that really what the pandemic has done has accelerated the transformation of customers' behaviors, of their expectations, their aspirations, and in some cases, a reevaluation of their values. What's important to them? And that, I think, is the real deep insight that we're living through right now in the pandemic, or as we navigate the pandemic. And those are the drivers. And what's interesting there is that the CEO, the C-suite, and particularly the CEO is really blessing, if you will, if not outright encouraging this transformation to be accelerated. Because again, in the marketplace, we're seeing the companies that are doing this, they're winning. They're winning the hearts and minds of their customers, and you can even see it in the capital markets, the way some of their stocks are performing.
So truly incredible. I'm just picking up on a few things you said. So, wow, from years to days, like that hasn't really happened before. So that's incredible. And then this, I guess, dichotomy between internal and external pressure. Now, you mentioned the CEO. Is the CEO that's leading the charge in organizations or applying this pressure? Or is it someone else in the C-suite?
Well, I think maybe, applying the pressure, or you could say leading, they're being really clear, right, of what the company has, what their goals are, right, what their growth goals are. So what I would say, who's leading the charge really, in many cases, is the chief marketing officer, or, sometimes we'll often refer to this as, the CMO-plus, right, because this is the chief marketing, the chief brand, the chief growth, the chief digital, the chiefs keep going on. But the important part is that the person who truly understands this, the customer, the consumer, the guest, people, fundamentally the people that are buying the products and services, they're the ones leading the charge. But that pressure, of course, is real. It's real to drive growth. And, as we navigate this pandemic, sometimes it is pressure to simply survive, right, in certain categories.
Super interesting. And I guess when you say that the CMO-plus is doing that, like that's a super interesting concept. Can you unpack that a little bit? Because I find that is very prevalent in our space, where there are new C-suite titles, but they're all kind of gravitating towards the same goal. So maybe you can expand on a little bit and what you're seeing organizations land on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, how you even ended that about it's all the same goal, right? I mean, fundamentally, their remit, being the marketing function, is to drive growth. I mean, let's not get too cute with the word, right? Fundamentally, it's to drive growth. And so what we're seeing is that, again, this, in the marketing, and let's say title aside for a second, it's that mindset. And that's absolutely critical, because the lines are kind of getting blurred. Where that chief marketing officer, had marketing, communications, and advertising, comms development, now they're also accountable and responsible for customer service, multi-channel commerce, integrated stakeholder engagement. And that is really important. And what it means is a real rethink. Three areas that are important. It's a rethink of the marketing organizational structure. It is a rethink of the capabilities needed, right, to be in that organizational design. And then third, it is what is the technology needed to enable the capabilities, enable that organizational design to drive growth. So it's kind of, from my perspective, those are the three key areas, and I say them in order: organizational design, capabilities, and then technology enablement.
I love that. And I love that sort of those three priorities. Now, when those actually work, when they come together, you referenced a few sort of top line examples when we started the conversation. Can you expand a little bit on what does that mean for organizations when this actually comes to fruition?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's really nothing, almost less than remarkable. You think of a consumer product retailer in the, let's say, the pet space that pre-pandemic was largely a transactional pet retailer. They fundamentally, really just fundamentally transformed into a pet wellness company, and rethinking what that means. And so that, in this world, that means, yes, of course, not only curbside pickup or making, that transaction as easy as possible, but it means what are they going to do virtually that enables them to understand the health and well-being of their pet, facilitate pet adoption, facilitate like grooming. These are all like fascinating areas where if you have a clear value proposition and you truly understand and put the customer at the center, well, then you start to develop, right, solutions and experiences that meet that. And that's an example of, a company that's winning. Same thing like in financial services or insurance, companies that are using technology and data, to truly understand, hey, what's the best product for Leandro? Does Leandro, does he have a motorcycle? Oh my goodness, if he's got a motorcycle, right? Well, then the kind of products that we are going to offer Leandro, because he's a motorcycle and he also has a boat. I'm making you off really great here, by the way, Leandro. But you know what I mean? taking these data points and bringing them in and truly understanding, the customer, then being able to tailor those solutions and products. I mean, that turns it again from a transactional nature to much more of a lifetime value. How are we going to provide, Leandro, more value over time?
I love these examples because we went from my pets, I do have two little dogs in the house, having wellness and everything taken care for, to myself with the motorcycle and a boat. So I'm loving this conversation, JSD. So it really is an exciting time. Really couldn't be blessed to do it in another time. Now tell me though, obviously there's always a flip to this. So there's organizations that maybe aren't, crossing this chasm, so to speak, using sort of a bit of Jeffrey Moore there. What do you see as the main blockers for organizations trying to take advantage of this opportunity that's available to all of us?
Yeah, and Leandro, I really love this dialogue too, because it's fascinating, right? As we have the conversations across all the CMO plus community. I mean, I think why is it, right? Why does one company in a QSR, succeed and the other one not, when fundamentally they have the same access to capital, they have, very intelligent leaders, they have long histories. And I think it comes down to this area of organizational and personal inertia. And I really believe in this, that fundamentally the organization inertia won't change unless it has to, or it has incredible leadership, right? That is absolutely clear on how they're going to provide value for, again, their customers, their consumers. And the same, tailoring this to the CMO plus community, the personal inertia, it's a big deal to, all of a sudden take responsibility for customer service. It's a big deal to all of a sudden say, yeah, I'm going to take multi-channel commerce. And the obstacle here is that inertia. So number one, marketing CMO plus, there's never been a better time to be a marketer. Take the reins and do it and have the confidence. And then, as we talk about at Salesforce, have a beginner's mind, because what worked in the past, I think we're pretty clearly understanding, is not necessarily what's going to work, quite frankly, now or in the future. So those, I think, are the big blockers to kind of realizing this transformation and growth.
I love that, and in particular the sort of notion to take action, right? I think take that first step, take it by the reins, I guess, so to speak, as you said. And I guess for folks that are tuning in that personally are trying to get started, what would be that first step to them, knowing that that's available to them? What would you recommend? What have you seen people do first?
This is, I love this. And again, I take most of, as we all do, but, since I do get the chance to talk to so many CMOs, I'm taking this in, right? And I was with a conversation with a recent CMO, and they said, the best thing to do is get outside your category, get outside your region, go look for the world's greatest examples of brand experience, of customer experience, of, customer, consumer, guest-centric strategies. And I thought it was just so brilliant. So if you're in QSR, go look to travel and entertainment. If you're in B2B, go look B2C. You're in B2C, there's some unbelievable B2B examples. But make sure that you get out of the kind of bubble that we're all in and go find the greatest examples and then use that as your true North Star. I was like, that's brilliant, right? Because again, that's where you get true transformation. So many examples of great digital companies that have transformed, ride sharing, have transformed music delivery, have transformed on and on. Go look at them as your true north. And then, not to be cliche, but, Nike, right? Just do it. I mean, right now is the time to just, quite frankly, take the reins and go do it. Because again, the C-suite is looking, for that CMO plus community to guide them.
What brilliant takeaways. I'm just going to summarize what I'm taking away from this conversation, JSD. I'm hearing that the pandemic didn't just accelerate digital transformation, it accelerated the digital transformation of customer behaviors, expectations, values, and also aspirations. You also talked about CMOs are taking on increased accountabilities, customer service, multi-channel commerce, integrated stakeholder management, and that is requiring more cross-functional collaboration in most cases. It's really a fundamental redesign of the marketing organization and capabilities. And last but not least, CMOs must overcome organizational and personal inertia to transform their businesses. And a great way to get inspiration for that is to go outside, your building, so to speak, and see what's happening in other organizations as well and other categories. Look, JSD, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your perspectives. This has been incredible.
Thank you so much, Leandro. As always, it's great to be with you. You want me to stop recording, right?
I was motivated. I'm like, all right, let me go and crush some other organizational goals.
There you go. Where'd you get this idea, Leandro? JSD said it.